Good morning, Shane McCusker here, Intelligence Software. Today I'm joined with Albie Rheeder from ME Personnel Consultants. Good morning, Albie. How are you?
Morning, Shane. Well, and yourself?
I'm wonderful. As we were talking earlier, 2010 saw a great deal of upheaval within the industry. 2011, there's more changes on the horizon. Where do you think the opportunities and threats are for the recruitment industry in 2011?
Everybody in South Africa and those people that followed some of the discussions on LinkedIn would know that there's major changes that's been pushed through in terms of the Labour Relations Act. And the general idea is that labour broking, as they call it, or temporary employment services, would be done away with and won't exist. That is definitely a genuine threat to the business in general. And I think what people don't understand is that this is more far-reaching than just touching on recruitment companies. It has an impact right through the subcontracting, the sub-consulting, outsourcing of functions to clients, industry in general. So it touches every sector of the industry and not only recruitment sector, and that is definitely a huge threat. But
could I just interrupt you there? In terms of, from my own understanding, I've read a little bit about this, there's discussion whether the current proposed legislation is going to be constitutional, whether it will work, whether it will increase or decrease unemployment. What do you think is actually going to happen, and what do you think the impact on the industry is going to be like?
Shane, if we go and look at what different pieces of newspapers say and these reporters say, you get a fairly grim picture. Our view is, yes, there can be a constitutional challenge, and there definitely is, because constitutionally they cannot push these laws through, in our view. What can happen, though, is that they can start regulating the industry, which is fine with us. What we do understand is that should the bill as it is currently written be pushed through, yes, there will be a constitutional challenge via the temporary employment sector in South Africa. Not too long ago, well documented is the Namibian scenario where similar legislation was pushed through. In 2009, it was found to be unconstitutional, and labour broking, or temporary employment services, as we prefer to call it, continues in Namibia. The issue is that it all depends on who you talk to, but on any given day within the South African economy, you have 500,000 to 600,000 people working within these temporary employment contracts. And as said earlier, it has an impact on our clients that will get a project to build a piece of road, for argument's sake. And the project's only going to be for 6, 7 or 8 months. Mm-hmm. Effectively, they need to employ these people on a permanent basis. So, from a pragmatic point of view, I don't think it will work.
So there may be an argument for aspects of regulation within the industry. It's going to cause a real mess if the industry as it's currently, the legislation as it's currently drafted is going to come in. Is there anything that the recruitment industry can do at the moment to either prepare for what's going to happen or to try and counteract what's going to happen?
The best strategy is for companies to get themselves in line. We as an organization since 2004 have sort of gone and got a bunch of other companies similar to ours that work in a similar industry, that supply similar services, work within the similar candidate bases, and formed an organization that seeks to self-regulate. And we have our code of ethics, we've got a code of conduct, which all of these group members subscribe to. So self-regulation is there, and once I think the method that we used in terms of our self-regulation, it will be small twigs to adapt to what government is proposing on how to regulate the industry, which we're 100% for.
A year or so ago, I was talking to some of our clients, and when this was first mooted, and it seemed to be a case where they felt, well, we're a reputable company. If legislation comes in, it'll affect the less reputable aspects of the industry, which is only good for the reputable aspects. Now I'm getting a sense that there's more nervousness. Now I'm getting a sense that legislative proposals are a sledgehammer to crack a nut, in the sense that the problem, whilst there is a problem there to be solved, legislation that is being proposed is going to cause a great deal of damage. And I'm getting a sense now that the legitimate people within the industry are nervous. How real is a fear that legislation is going to be really disruptive to well-run, self-regulated recruiters?
Well, to put it in a nutshell, Shane, if this legislation is passed, it doesn't matter how ethical you run your business, how well you run it. Temporary employment services, subcontracting, and all of those flexible work types or atypical work types will cease to exist. So it is a real threat, irrespective of how ethical or unethical you're running your business. Our view is, though, that the unethical practices within the business or within the industry can, to a certain extent, be put at the door of unethical clients. There is huge unemployment in the country, and there's this perception that, people are a dime a dozen. And unfortunately, it is the lower educated portion of the population that gets exploited. And unfortunately, it's my view that the unreputable guys that fly under the radar, even now, will just grow stronger.
Would you be in favour of more regulation within the industry? Is that going to help you, or is that going to hinder you?
It all depends. Regulation is a good thing. I don't have an issue with regulation, and it would level the playing fields for the ethical or reputable companies. The extent of the regulation is another issue, and we're not clear on to which extent they want to regulate it. There is another bill that was also passed, the Employment Services Bill, which in general, in my limited view, would become, the government would become one large temporary employment or recruitment center. It's worldwide, it's that phenomena, and any recruiter within the industry internationally understands that government is not good enough, or they don't have those expertise to effectively run a recruitment business. So it's a question of what is that regulation going to be, how is it going to look like. The regulations are actually there, they're written into law. It's the ineffectiveness of government to uphold these laws that is the real problem. What's
the time scale for this? When do you think that a legislation will be implemented?
NEDLAC sits on the 20th of this month. Is the Department of Labour or government, organised labour, which is the unions, and organised business represented by BUSA, and then they will thrash out all of these issues. It is my view that we will get regulated, and the extent of which we'll see. But it's better that than closing down the industry, because that will be disastrous. It will be disastrous.
Okay. Well, we will. It's a dark cloud hanging over the industry at the moment. Let's hope that some sense will prevail, and we will see a form of legislation that is to everybody's benefit.
You must remember, TIA. This is Africa.
I can hope. Listen, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And as I say, we'll get this up and running, and we'll see where the debate goes thereafter.
I'm 100% sure.
Thanks very much for that, Albie. I'll talk to you very soon.
Cheers.